Hey friends, welcome back to Unbottled Potential. I am so excited to share an amazing conversation with my friend Jane Novak, who has just released a new book. But before we do, I wanted to remind you that we are in the last couple of weeks of 2022, if you're listening live or live-ish, which means that dry January is just around the corner, and I am hosting my Unbottled Potential Dry January Challenge. You can join up until January 6th. So if you're listening live-ish and you want to still get in, just go over to Instagram and DM me the word dry January, or the words, I suppose. And this is amazing for you if you are sober curious and you are just planning to take a break from alcohol for January and see how it goes, or if you are already alcohol free and really just wanting to enhance the journey. We're going to do 5 weeks throughout the month of January of audio lessons and live Q&A coaching sessions with the group members. And I'm going to do separate lessons actually depending upon which level you are at. So you are really going to get some great value. It's only $22. So I would love for you to join, or you can join for $33 if you want to join both levels 1 and 2 and get the whole enchilada. I would love to have you there. It's going to be amazing. I have some really exciting stuff planned for you, and I am just really excited to kick off the year with this amazing program. So if that sounds like something you want to participate in, head on over to my Instagram page and I'll put a link there, but you can just DM me the word dry January and I'll send you all the details. All right. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to my friend Jane Novak. She is an international speaker, author, philosopher, and spiritual teacher who empowers sensitive people and truth seekers to find peace, realize their true nature, and live a heart-centered life. Jane's book, How to Be Highly Sensitive and Empowered, a revolutionary healing guide for empaths, is out now. I will put a link to purchase it on Amazon down in the show notes, or you can find it wherever you prefer to buy your books. I think that many of you are going to deeply resonate with what Jane has to share. Jane and I have been connected for quite some time, and I really appreciate the way she talks about highly sensitive individuals and empaths and what you can do to be really empowered in that role, to where you step into it as a superpower. And Jane and I connected originally over an Instagram post that she did about empaths and alcohol. And I know that many of you identify as an empath or a highly sensitive. And if you don't, you might after this episode. So listen and learn. I hope that you find something that resonates with you. And if you do, please take a screenshot and tag me and Jane over on Instagram. We would love your feedback and love if you share this episode if it hit home with you. And please, whatever you do, go out and buy Jane's book to support her and just to learn a little bit more about yourself. All right, here is my conversation with Miss Jane Novak. Hey friends, welcome back. Today I am talking with my friend Jane Novak, and Jane and I met on the internet maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and she had shared a post about alcohol and empaths that really resonated with me. And she and I started going back and forth and became friends through that post. And I've been waiting and waiting. Jane has been writing a book, and it is now out. And so I wanted to share her philosophy with you and share a little bit of what went into creating her book. And I know that so many of you who listen are empaths or identify as empaths, or maybe don't know you are an empath or a highly sensitive person. And Jane is an expert in this area. So I'm really excited to have her come on and talk with us today. So, hey, Jane, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm really thrilled to be here and actually to reconnect with you again.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a while. And I know that you've been working so hard on writing your book, and now it's out in the world. And we want to share that with everyone because this is going to be a really important resource for so many sensitives who are waking up right now.
Thank you. Yes, it's been a while. It's been a journey, to say the least. But, it's kind of interesting. I always say that I didn't choose to work with sensitive people and empath. That chose me and kind of like led me here. And it's been such an incredible journey to connect with like-minded individuals who feel different in the world.
Yeah.
And I've learned myself a lot too through all of this.
Yeah. Well, can you tell those of us who don't know, what is an empath or highly sensitive person? How do you define that? Or how might someone know if that's them, if they've never heard of these terms before?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're highly sensitive, you just perceive the world differently. You are highly aware of perception of the world, whatever it may be, specifically other people, their mood, their behaviors. You can walk into the room and you just sense the energy that the energy might be different,
Mm-hmm.
and you can feel if the person is being truthful or not. And more than that, there's actually scientific research that's backing up that empaths have hyper-responsive mirror neurons,
Mm-hmm.
and they basically they reflect back what's happening in the world. So if you don't know how to take care of yourself, you can actually sort of lose yourself in
Mm-hmm.
the world. It just can feel too much. It's all
Yeah.
about being empowered, not running away from your gift, but setting yourself in that empowerment.
Yeah. Well, in the work that I do, one of the biggest ways that people run away from that gift, kind of unwittingly, they don't really realize they're doing that, is through drinking alcohol. And that's how we connected. So, can you tell us a little bit about your take on how alcohol impacts empaths, or what you kind of see happening in the world with highly sensitives and empaths interacting with alcohol?
Absolutely. Well, I can only probably speak from my journey at this point, and it was very powerful when I had this organic urge to just stop drinking alcohol. I never felt good about after drinking the alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
being highly sensitive, and then I also realized that I had a life-threatening diagnosis that didn't help me with that condition. It's a very rare one. It didn't help me feel better anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of, but even before, I remember drinking and numbing myself. I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic. It wasn't my issue,
Mm-hmm.
but there was still the numbing process, and it's
Yeah.
very important to be aware of that. So, and I would say organically on my spiritual journey, I kind of felt to withdraw from all of that. And, not just that, I changed my diet. I felt more drawn to consume different information. And that's what I talk about the book as well, mental diet. So it kind of all correlates, all comes in a circle. But alcohol was, and I speak a lot about that in a book, that it's one of those energy streams that once you get hooked on that energy stream, you're part of that stream, and it's hard for you to feel balanced. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like life takes over you instead of you feeling strongly empowered about your life. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember gradually, and I always say, even when I work with my clients, every process has to be gradual. So I gradually started withdrawing from it. And sometimes, I would feel like taking a sip, and less I actually would enjoy it. And I remember it would be like a few months. And then I'm like, let me just take a sip of wine. And I took a sip of wine, and it tasted like chemical to me. So after my
Mm-hmm.
body cleansed, you can actually feel that it's a toxin. You drinking toxin, it just didn't make sense for me. So I just withdrew from all of that. And let me tell you that my life changed so much after that.
Mm-hmm.
First, it a lot has happened, but then it was all about awakening and remembering my nature. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe part of it was to removing yourself from that energy stream that kind of kept you vibrating on a lower frequency.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you noticed that changed in your life when you allowed yourself to raise your vibration?
Certain people
Mm-hmm.
got removed from my life, and it's
Yeah.
just happened very organically. That didn't serve me anymore. I found peace. I found a realization of my true nature, and again, it
Mm-hmm.
was one of the components, removing alcohol off the whole picture, but I think it was a very important one as well. And I think there's nothing more important than just feeling peace and happiness,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we thrive for. And
Yeah.
obviously, my peace transferred into my relationships with my family, with friends. I found new amazing people, new friends. So it's kind of like a domino effect, if you will, like
Mm-hmm.
all of these little pieces, and then when you look back, it kind of makes sense, like pieces of the puzzle. It's like, oh, that makes sense why this was happening, and I
Yeah.
was feeling that way. Listen, that clarity, by looking back.
Yeah. So one of the things that we talked about before, when we first met is, and hopefully you can speak to the, well, I know that you can speak to this, but one of the the things that was happening in the comment thread of the original post we connected on were kind of empaths coming to defense of their relationship with alcohol, kind of like building this case that they were so empowered as an empath that they could alchemize alcohol and make it not bad. And not that alcohol is bad, but just make the effects not bad, I guess. And I'd love to hear your take on, do you think that we can like magically alchemize alcohol as an empath and make it to where it doesn't affect us?
Well, that's an interesting question. I'll give you an example. I actually outline it in my book. When we moved to Florida, I used to take these cruises on a boat, like a, lunch cruise or dinner cruise, dolphin cruise. And it was interesting to witness that every time I would get on a boat, there's a line formed right away with adults, obviously,
Yes.
And that line is huge. And I'm like thinking to myself, obviously they're getting a drink, not so much of a snack. I was standing in line to get water actually, and I had to wait a long time. But when you think about that, I'm thinking to myself, you are on a beautiful boat in a beautiful ocean, about to witness a gorgeous sunset and see the dolphins. Like, isn't that enough? Do you
Yeah.
have to numb yourself? Do you have to get to the point that you're just going to be swaying from side to side and in order to enjoy it? So that kind of when I started breaking up from that stream, realizing like, why do we do that? But we do that because of the programming that is in a way instilled in the society, and it's kind of became a normalized thing. It's like, oh, it's Friday, let's go out, let's drink. Oh, it's Sunday, tomorrow is Monday, it's a horrible day, let's maybe have another drink. So I always tell people, question everything. Question why you do that. Why do you want to drink? Why you stand in that line? And sometimes there could be an occasion that you just feel like it and you might have a sip or two. But what I noticed personally, that as an empath, there's always self-awareness about that. So you always sense how it affects you on the physical level and energetic level right away. So you become aware of that. That's why you actually more likely to withdraw from alcohol eventually. And again, there are still wonderful teachers who enjoy a glass of wine here and there. And I'm not here to judge anyone. But you're right, there is this tendency to be on that programming without questioning anything.
One of the things you mentioned early on is that empaths really need to learn to take care of themselves. And so if we've been kind of bypassing that self-care aspect by just numbing out, can you give us some ways in which we can learn to take care of ourselves so that we can kind of thrive out in, well, not kind of, so that we can fully thrive out in society when we've been used to numbing down our emotions and our sensitivities?
I think the reason why we numb our emotions and because they're uncomfortable, because something uncomfortable comes up, we cannot bear it. Because there's this notion that these emotions and feelings will scare us, will destroy us. And just the same thing, if you notice, it's a very noisy civilization. When you go to the store, any store or a restaurant, there's always music because people just afraid to be silent. It's kind of not a thing. We need to make sure it's loud, that everybody forgets about their problems and get into consuming something else, whether it's alcohol or shopping or whatever. So the same way, I believe that if we not allow ourselves to learn to process these emotions, to sit with our emotions, to actually welcome them, let them come up to the surface, because the reason you feel so uncomfortable, it's your emotions just like seeking for your attention right now. So when we just allow, and at first it's uncomfortable because that's something most people haven't done before. So you sit with that uncomfortable feeling. And I even allow myself, here's an example, right? It could be numbing with alcohol or scrolling through social media. That's very common. And it could be different things. So the moment you feel like you want to turn on the TV or scroll through social media, when you feel something uncomfortable, stop. I would not recommend to move your attention to something else, because you will, it will get bottled up and it will come up again even stronger. So just allow yourself, just literally, if you're home, sit on a couch, get yourself a cup of tea, whatever it is, just sit with these uncomfortable emotions and just witness it. It might be comfortable, uncomfortable. Don't label it. Allow yourself to be present with all of that, and you will notice that it's going to get easier, as you welcome them and allow them and become friends with them, because they come out of presence, out of awareness. That's our true nature, right? And when they kind of sparkle and dissipate back into awareness. So there's nowhere else to go. But if you're not going to process them, it's a very resistant thing to do.
Yeah. And then it just stays in your body, and it's going to come back up again, probably even stronger, because that emotion, like you said, is kind of like knocking at you to be felt.
It's like a little child, I always say, it's like a child can misbehave to let you know that it needs the attention, And what do you do with a child? I mean, I have children, and I remember if my toddlers will have tantrum, I'll be there, because no matter how uncomfortable it is, they need me, right? So why do we neglect ourselves like this? Imagine yourself as being this child. It's like they need that. You need that attention for yourself right now.
Yes, so much. And so many of us didn't learn these skills as children either. And so it really is like a little child part of us coming back up to say, hey, I need you to take care of me right now.
Yeah, I agree. It is like an inner child. So, a lot of people use these words, inner child. So it is kind of like knocking on a door. It's like, please take care of me. Please, I asked you a month ago, you numbed me down. Please, I'm still here. Please, I want to be out. I want to be out. So, and you just, if you can stay as an observer in this situation without judgment and without labeling, I wouldn't even go far and say, oh, this is the anger, this is the, you can label it if it helps you, but just like an impartial observer, allow yourself to feel everything that comes up and just notice how you feel. You will be surprised that it's not that bad, actually.
Yeah. And it really doesn't last that long if you just kind of let it happen and let the wave come through. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's what we do in our day to day, right? Like when we have these big things come up. And I know also another piece of anxiety that comes up for the women who listen to this show is when you are going out into society as a sensitive person, like you said, like on the boat or to a party or something, and you used to use alcohol to numb all of the things that come up for you, and you're, because there's so much noise, because there's so much happening. Are there any exercises, tips, tricks that you have for navigating sensitivity out in the wild, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, it's all in my book.
Yeah.
But today I would like to share some of it. Probably, you're absolutely right. It is in a way too much for most sensitive people, too much to go out in the world and force themselves to be outgoing. But sometimes it's a requirement, work, corporate things, so there are sometimes things you have to go. But one thing that I would, and I describe in my book about the practice of self-awareness, with other tools, but this is the most important one. You have to become aware of everything that is happening and being present. So let's say you go out and you feel uncomfortable. Maybe there are loud noises. Instead of falling, what I call, into energy stream and becoming a part of it, because it just takes over you. And the book actually describes like a hook dragging you, and nothing you can do about it. Instead of that, you become self-aware of whatever it is. So one of the things that you can feel with your physical body, I suggest to imagine roots growing out of your feet into the ground. So that would be a first step. But further, you will realize that you don't need these intermediate steps to actually remember, oh, wait a minute. I am not this noise. I am not this chaos. I am not. So who am I? Right. So you go back to the source, to awareness, to consciousness that you are. And the consciousness is always impartial and impersonal.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't get caught up in all of that insanity. So it's
Yeah.
important to become self-aware in the moment. Sometimes you will notice first, it will be very rare moments. And then there will be more and more and more and more, like you will feel maybe how my body feels right now. And then you will get the impulses to move to another place. Maybe another person will come talk to you that will be pleasant. So there will be little things guiding you for a more pleasant experience. But the first step is becoming aware.
Yeah. And I think that what you're describing is, and I've had this experience even after 6 or 7 years of practicing this, is if you're not aware, you almost dissociate, right? And kind of go to
Yeah.
another place just to keep yourself safe and from being involved in the chaos. But if you can root back in, every single time I have magnetized someone in that room or been magnetized to someone at a party that is, as you said, like a pleasant experience, the person who I was supposed to talk to or supposed to meet. And that's a really beautiful experience when you actually get to find the person amongst the chaos who, number one, probably can kind of regulate you back to normal a little bit just by being there, and also who you can truly connect with and have a great experience. And I know when I was not being aware, I would just talk to anyone. I didn't care, but they weren't
Mhm.
meaningful, good conversations. And what you're saying is you can find a person who it will be pleasant and it'll just happen naturally once you're tuned in.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And I would also add that, we can sit and meditate at home, we can protect ourselves and not go out in the world, but the best practice is actually to put things in practice is to go out in the
Mhm.
world. So I'm
Yeah.
actually encouraging sensitive people to, once they starting that self-awareness practice, I don't call it practice, but it is practice.
It is.
The
Yeah.
best practice is actually the real life
Uh-huh.
experience.
Yeah.
So when they go out in the world, in a lot of data is coming in, and a lot of they have to process a lot. Go for it. Go
Mhm.
for it. Don't be afraid of the world.
Mhm.
So it takes a little bit of time to get established in that routine, but the more you do it, the more empowered you become. So the idea is not to hide,
Mhm.
but to be social. If you want to go to places, you still can enjoy movies, concerts. It's not about closing yourself off
Mhm.
completely.
Yeah. Well, your book is called How to Be Highly Sensitive and Empowered. So, can you describe what it might look like to someone who is highly sensitive and not empowered, and what that transition looks like to becoming this empowered person?
Yes. Well, I share in a book about a little bit how you can be an unaware empath,
Hmm.
and then you become empowered empath. So
Hmm.
that's the goal, right? That's the goal,
Yeah.
to take you through that journey. And usually unaware empath, uh, they feel a little lost. They
Hmm.
feel like they're pulled in different directions. They have good intentions, but they don't have enough stamina to stand up for themselves. They still feel the world to the level that, non-empath, they just have kind of like filters. They don't
Hmm.
feel it that much. But unaware empath could be different types. Unaware empath who don't even know that they're sensitive people and don't even know they pick up the energy, or unaware empath who kind of tune in a little bit here and there, but at the same time they still feel swayed into different directions. So
Hmm.
it's basically like a hurricane coming in, taking you, and go whatever the hurricane goes.
Hmm.
Or you can, as an empowered empath, you can embrace the hurricane, but you're not going to be, swayed by and it taken wherever it goes. So that would be probably the main difference. And I believe at the beginning of the book I have, let me see, maybe I can read.
Yeah.
Uh, so at the beginning, I actually, does this sound like you right now?
Hmm.
Big crowds overwhelm you. You feel mentally and physically exhausted. Watching negative news and movies, violent movies, drains your energy. You feel overwhelmed by arguments, noise, smell, and excessive talk. You have been called sensitive your whole life. Your attitude and mood are often swayed and affected by people around you. And I think the biggest one is that you've always felt like you're not from this planet, this world, and most human behaviors don't make sense to you. You find yourself in unhealthy relationship patterns. So that's kind of like, in a nutshell. And with people around you, it's hard to figure out what your own needs are, even down to the smallest things, such as what you want for dinner. It's kind of like not having clarity, stability, and being shaken,
Yeah.
knowing that there's something else out there, but you cannot quite put your finger on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I resonate with that definitely. And I would love to, we probably should have started off with this, but it's okay. We'll just go in whatever order the world takes us. Could you share with us, Jane, how sensitivity, you said that sensitivity is a gift to awakening. Can you kind of share your journey to what that looked like for you?
Yes, I feel that sensitivity, as much as you want to say, I'd rather be non-sensitive, it's a gift. A gift in a sense that it allows you to feel the unity of one consciousness and recognize each other in yourself, right? So you in this lifetime being highly sensitive, you're not going to most likely, especially if you're listening to this, you're not going to go through your life not knowing who you are. And this is a lot of issues derive from place of people not knowing who they are, their true nature. So sensitive people, they can tune in into the nature of one consciousness, one awareness, and the journey can be different for each individual, obviously, but they're truth seekers. They have a lot of questions. They want to know what came first. It's a different kind of minds. Everybody have different minds, but the idea is the same, that they crave the truth. They're truth lovers. So as a truth lover and truth seeker, you eventually come to a place of realizing that your nature is of peace and happiness itself.
Yeah.
So while a lot of people derive their peace and happiness, and I used to do most of the time that too, we all did, from objects, right? And we think we'll get this relationship that will be better. I'll be fixed if this will happen. I'll be happier if I'll get this car or whatnot. So we all have been there. And sensitive people can get to the point of realizing that peace in nature is not something objective to attain. It's actually our nature. That's who we are. We just obscured by everything that's happening, plus being highly sensitive. It's like a lot of perception out there happening, at the same time. So it's a gift. It's a gift because you awaken.
Yeah. How did you discover, or when did you discover and start working with sensitivities and your own abilities as an empath? What did that look like for you in your life?
Well, to me, it was, I came across the term empath. Well, let me kind of back up a little bit. I was always curious. I used to be a health coach first. I used to work with clients, and I felt that's not enough. There's something is missing. And I, again, as a truth seeker, I was fascinated by self-help books, obviously going and learning and reading a lot and trying to get to the point, like what's missing, where is that peace and happiness people talk about?
Yeah.
So being on that journey and then coming across the word empath and kind of like having this aha moment that even before researching what it means, it resonated. It's like, yeah, probably that's what it is. Sensitive, being sensitive. That's who I am. So, and over the time, actually right away, I had this urge to help other sensitive people too, and work with them and share my wisdom. So it was quite a journey of understanding, all about energy, and until I came to the, experiencing myself as peace and happiness. So it's been quite a journey, quite an interesting one. But like I said at the beginning, I don't think I chose that journey chose me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Including sensitive people.
Yeah. And it is, I just, as someone who follows you, watches you, loves you. I know that you are the real deal in terms of how you show up and live your life and how you teach, and everything that you teach is just so grounded and rooted and beautiful. And you can tell that you have really got in there and sought out the truth for all of these spiritual issues that you speak on, these energetic frequency issues that you bring up on your social media, in your book, in your work. And I'm just so grateful that you are doing this work, because there are so many empaths out there that do not know. They feel, as you said, the most important thing, that they've always been weird and different and strange, and they didn't belong in this world. And, the way that the women who are listening to this podcast, that shows up for them is they try to escape it. They try to become normal the best way that they can. And for them, that's alcohol. And yet if you have this gift, and I truly do believe it's a gift and a superpower, that gift is going to come back knocking at the door, wanting out, wanting to be expressed. And it feels really scary. And I just want to speak to that and remind everyone that it does feel scary, but it's actually, as you said, your true nature coming out. And that true nature is not to be in chaos, it's to feel peace. And if you lean into it and use the tools that Jane teaches, and that so many other wonderful teachers bring forth, you can live a life where, hopefully we'll be able to post the video. Jane, you just look like glowing and peaceful, and you're in the middle of a book tour. And I know that that is a stressful, big thing to do. And you can do it with grace. Not that there's no chaos whatsoever in your life, but you can handle it at a different level if you really lean into that. So is there anything else that you want to share with our audience as we kind of close up today about your journey? And obviously we'd love to know where we can find you and get your book.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for your kind words. And I feel the same way, when I saw the way you share truthfully and authentically, I instantly connected with you. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate the work you're doing as well. Thank you. You're absolutely right. I would add that being peaceful it does not equal that you don't have challenges, but mm-hmm. You don't turn these challenges into suffering.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good way to put it. Beautiful. Yes.
Yes. So they are still challenges, but like I said, it's not obscuring you so much, because you are knowing who you are. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because you become calmer. At the same time, you still deal with something that comes into your life, but the solution comes from that deeper place, mm-hmm. From consciousness itself. And it's not ego driven, this little small sense of self, me trying to figure it out the world, which it's an illusion anyway, right? Elusive self trying to figure it out. So yeah, the challenges will be there. Don't feel like peace is some place under the tree that you have to receive as a prize if you meditate a lot. Mm-hmm. Live your life, go out, become self-aware. I know you, Amanda, share great tools, and I have tools in my book as well if you need the tools, right? But at the same time, experience yourself as peace. And it doesn't mean that you deny the world at the same time. Yeah. It's actually accepting whatever comes is what enhances that sense of peace, so to speak. Yeah. But remembering that peace is not created, is not man-made, is not mind-made. It's your nature. It's like a sun just shining. Mm-hmm. That's all it does. It just shines, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing you can do about it. The clouds, everything comes and goes. It just shines. It's the nature of the sun. So just like that, you are shining. And maybe for now you're a little obscured with your daily challenges and so on. Become aware of all of that and just dive into being more aware of who you are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, beautiful. Well said. All right, Jane, tell us where we can find you on the internet. Where can we get your book? Because I know everyone listening, you will need to read this book. If I feel that the largest percentage of my audience is highly sensitive and empathic. And if you're not, that's okay. But I think that learning about these things could really tune you into something that's been forgotten in your soul. And so where can we find you and your book, Jane?
Well, you can find it in your favorite book retailer, or a bookstore. It's called How to Be Highly Sensitive and Empowered. And I share more. I'm a little more active on my Instagram at Jane _ Lightworker. So yes, I'd be
Yay.
happy if you guys read a book and share your feedback.
Yes. Well, we will link all of this down in the show notes for this episode. And Jane, I'm just so grateful for you and so happy that your work gets to be out in the world in a bigger way. And I know that if you enjoyed this episode, please share it and let Jane and I both know. And please, please, please go out and buy her book because I know that it will serve you on your journey.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.